Welcome to Brands Hatch Circuit. If you talk about motorsport on television in the United States, the big deal is NASCAR saloon car racing. In England and Europe, single-seaters have always been the dominant force as far as the hierarchy of the sport has been concerned. That's all changing. Saloon car racing is becoming big business, whether it be from the road-going variety, of which a very large number of drivers are now taking part, right through to the modified saloon categories. Saloon cars are becoming where it's at. The British Championship is being televised this season. We are here at Brands Hatch to bring you the Thundersaloons. Now, we'll explain a little bit more about that type of racing later on. Suffice it to say, some very class drivers, some very class machinery you're going to be seeing in a mini long-distance event. Bill Mantovani and Colin Howard are with me here at Brands, and Bill, you've been keeping an eye on the practice times.
Yes indeed, Paul, and we've seen some pretty exciting stuff during that practice. The lap record for the Thundersaloons, which was set last August by Nick Otway and Holman Blackburn, that's already been beaten by no less than the leading 4 teams, including the record holders. The track conditions here are dry, and we certainly expect some close racing. Anyway, whilst we wait for the teams to choose their opening drivers, because don't forget these cars are shared, let's go over to Colin Howard for a word with Norcross, the sponsors of this year's Thundersaloon series.
I have with me John Hopkins and Richard Foster from Norcross, a new name in motor racing. John, I believe Norcross is a very much bigger name than we might believe.
Well, it is, and it embraces most of the things that surround you in your lives, and we think it's time that some of these better brand names, Critter Windows that supply home improvement products, ceramic tiles by Crystal, it's high time that people knew that these were all part of our rather large international Critter empire, which operates both in here and overseas. Of these products, we sell somewhere near £750 million worth a year. You will find your products in supermarkets, on price marking and labelling, on bar coding. So such names as Marks and Spencer's and food products you buy anywhere in the UK and Europe may well be labelled and marked and priced by a Norcross company.
Well, that's absolutely splendid. Norcross, obviously a name to conjure with. And Richard, do you think that the name is big enough to go with this championship, do you?
Oh, I believe so, yes. Many people probably don't realise the size of Norcross. We have sales approaching £750 million a year, which puts us in one of the top 150 companies in this country.
Well,
and we hope through the medium of Thundersaloons that our message will go far and wide.
Well, Thundersaloons and Brands Hatch certainly welcome you to the sport. We hope you have a very exciting day today, and there's a name to remember, Norcross.
Thank you, Colin. And before we get into the action, let's take a look at the way the first 6 places on the grid are. On pole position, it's the Vauxhall Carlton Chevrolet of Vince Woodman and John Cleland. Woodman to start the drive. On the outside of the front row, it's Rod Burley in the Sierra. He'll be partnered by Dave Brody, car number 4. On the inside of the second row should be the Jim Mensley and Robin Donovan Honda Legend. On the outside of the second row will be Nick Oakway and Holman Blackburn in the Opel Manta Stars and Stripes 500. On the third row, on the inside, it's Burley and Brody again, but this time it's Dave Brody who takes his Colt Starion out first. They will be switching cars at mid-distance. On the outside of row 3, we've got the 2 from Ecuria Cos, Scotland, David Leslie and Hugh Chalmers in the first qualifier of the Class B cars, number 70.
Well, I have with me Rod Burley, one of the leading contenders in the Thundersaloon Championship. Rod, can you tell us how the system works?
Well, basically, it's a championship for heavily modified saloon cars. They compete in mini endurance races, so we've got pit stops and driver changes. During the driver changes, you'll see some drivers jump out of one car and into another. And the racing's very close. You've got a wide variety of makes out there, and it's very exciting.
And during the pit stop, it's a compulsory pit stop, is it?
That's right. It takes place between 1/3 and 2/3 distance, and literally a guy has got to jump out of a car, another one's got to get in, and if you do it in over 12 seconds, you're slow.
And the engines in these cars, they're the ultimate horsepower you can put in, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. We've got all sorts here, ranging from 4-cylinder turbos up to massive, great big V8s, and the engines have got to stay in the front of the car, and they try to keep the silhouette as near to standard as possible, although they do allow a few aerodynamic aids, because we do reach speeds of 160 miles an hour here at Brands Hatch.
160 miles an hour. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the format for Thundersaloons. Let's see the action.
Well, as we see the cars lining up on the grid, I think there's drama from the pits. Let's just go over and see.
Are you going to be all right?
I think so. Jim's just done a mad dash all around the country at about 130 miles an hour, trying to get a part. He's been away since 1 o'clock, and he's just got back just as they've gone out for the warm-up, so we're hoping to at least be out on the grid in time. If we're not, we'll have to start from the pit lane, but they're trying to get it all sorted just this minute.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. That's drama in the pits at the moment with the immaculate number 22 Honda Legend car, which has stunned the opposition by being third on the grid. They're desperately working upon it, and as you've heard, it may have to start from the pit lane. Vince, as you're sitting there, are you able to talk to us at all?
Yes, I can. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Do you think you're going to get away from pole position cleanly?
Well, we're hoping so, yes. With the rolling start, you know, it does help, but sometimes there are a few hiccups. It's the first guy into paddock, you know, is quite important, really.
Well, we wish you all the very best of luck. Good hunting.
Well, unusually for British saloon car racing, this Thunder Saloon Championship race, which is over 50 laps of the brand's Indy circuit, that's a touch over 55 miles, I think, will take 2 rolling pace laps to get underway. It's a rolling start on pole position, that white car, the big Senator of Vince Woodman and John Cleland. It's Vince Woodman who will be taking the first part of the race. Driver changes will take place. On the outside of the front row is car number 4, the Cosworth Sierra of Rod Burley. Burley will be sharing his drive with saloon car legend Dave Brody. And in fact, they'll be performing a car change midway. You can see the stars and stripes there on the second row of the rather spectacular Opel Manta 500 of Les Blackburn and Nick Oatway. That car to be reckoned with. That is the car, in fact, which holds the lap record here at Brands Hatch, and you can see them getting into line on the first of these rolling laps, alongside those two, and the grid getting just a little bit out of shape as we get around. You can see them running quite nicely so far. 22, Jim Mensley, is missing from the front of the grid lineup. Now, we're not sure what the problem is, but Mensley, with a spectacular new car at the Honda Legend, powered by an enormous V8 engine, in fact, of 6.5 litres. The Blue Hawk home improvement car, not on the lineup. He's starting from the pit road, we understand. Third fastest in practice, but whether he just couldn't make it onto the lineup in time, we're not sure. Car 58, we just saw in shot there, well down the grid, Brian Litherland, David Huddleton in the Nissan. They're getting on to the second of the rolling laps now, and the pace car driver will be ensuring that the drivers get as tidy as they possibly can in this rolling grid. Number 1, the car that just passed us back there, was unfortunate in practice. It went off. That's the car driven by hot rod drivers of the past, Pete Stevens and Neil Facey. And Stevens, in fact, having problems with the car during practice. They did have a small crash and lost part of the rear wheel arch. The car has qualified, but well down the grid, much further down than expected.
Yep, and the problem that they had, in fact, was that they were using some new wheels. They hadn't been machined properly, and one of them worked its way loose. And we're looking now at the cars towards the back of the field. We have, in fact, there is number 22, the man who was third fastest, Jim Mensley. He is actually going to have to start this race from behind the pace car. They're coming around any moment now towards the start line, as they, at the moment, are just going through Surtees. They turn right for McLaren, and then they'll be coming up ready to start. They actually start in second gear, and as the pace car peels off, then the race will be underway. There is number 5, and that is Bob Trotter, who is driving in the first part of the race. They change between 1/3 and 2/3, and the race is on.
Well, an awful lot of horsepower gets away there, and Rod Burley with that number 1 car right on his rear spoiler as they went into paddock and up the hill. Clash of Kevlar panels as they go up towards Druids. Very, very competitive stuff here. In third place, the Manta nips through into second place. That was a neat manoeuvre there by Les Blackburn. Very experienced racer in saloon cars of one sort or another. He'll be putting in the first appearance in that Opel. Rod Burley drops back down into fourth. Burley will be taking the first in the Sierra. He'll be looking for his teammate in this particular event. Number 12, Dave Brodie. There is Brodie in the turbocharged Colt Starion. They'll be trying to change drivers from one car to the other at midpoint during the race. They're coordinated by radio. Let's see how they can go. Nothing too much to worry about at the early stages for Rod Burley, being a little way down after that very close start because there's a lot of distance to make up. At the moment, the leading car, though, is that number 11 machine, the big, mean Vauxhall Carlton Chevrolet, 5.8 litres of Cleland and Woodman, and that is a car that won an awful lot of races during 1987.
It did indeed, and in fact, as they go now into their second lap, Vince Woodman is the driver who starts the race with Holman Blackburn right tucked in behind him. Now, before we confuse the viewers, I must explain that the name down on the programme is Holman Blackburn, and it has Les Blackburn on the side of the car, and it is in fact one and the same person. And Holman there going through, looking for a way past. Is he going to do it? He does indeed. He nips through on the inside as they turn down Paddock Hill Bend at the end of the second lap. And I asked Nick Otway, who shares this leading car, as to why it was painted in the Stars and Stripes, and he said, well, it's an American type formula, American engine, etc. The only thing that would be suitable for it would in fact be the Stars and Stripes.
And in fact that paint job does look the business. These Thunder Saloon race cars are identifiable as the sort of models that you see on the street. That's about as far as it goes. You can see what it's intended to be, unlike some of the special saloons which perhaps have got more to become single-seater race cars with a plastic body. These are saloon cars taken and modified. Very, very highly modified, it must be said, with some massive engines. As we said, that number 22 car there, the Honda Legend, and a very smooth-looking machine it is, with a massive V8 under the bonnet, built by Tom Laffey Racing, and has proved to be very quick. It's come through the pack from the back of the grid already towards the front. You can see Mr. Burley there in number 4 creeping back into the placings.
And Woodman is already back into the lead. There is number 112 that we're just looking at. He started from round about midfield, John Edwards, but Vince Woodman has come back through into the lead. And just looking back at that second place car, number 18, as Paul was saying, they are very highly modified. In fact, the engine is free. You can do what you like to them. It's a 5.7 litre engine, and I'm told it produces around about 600 plus brake horse. Now, that's a fair amount of power.
Yeah, one or two drivers were saying during the course of practice and so forth this morning that they were a little worried that their 400-odd bhp might not be quite enough. Sounds quite enough for most people. We should point out, of course, that this is split into two classes. That is the cars up to 2.5 litres and those over. There's the car, the yellow car, that leads the up to 2.5 litre class at the moment, as perhaps expected. That is the Ikuri Ecos Opel Manta 400, 2.4 litre, being driven at the moment, I think, by David Huddleston. And, sorry, Hugh Chalmers. Hugh Chalmers, we're getting into the wrong team. Hugh Chalmers, the Scottish driver who has made his first appearance for some time here at Brands Hatch, and he's getting a strong challenge from Johnny Edwards in 112 in the Escort, the turbocharged Cosworth Escort. Sorry, turbocharged it is not. Cosworth Escort it is, and Edwards is really standing on it, but the Scottish team just comes out trumps there in car number 70, the Opel, leading the Escort down through paddock.
And this in fact is the battle for 5th place. That's Hugh Chalmers, number 70. They were the quickest of the under 2.5 litre class this morning during practice. They were in fact 6th fastest overall. That's the yellow car that you're looking at, number 70. Right behind him in 6th place, John Edwards, 112, and coming right up through the field, we've got number 22, who's currently in 6th place after starting from the back of the grid. That's Jim Mentley. So quite a battle, and they've got another 45 laps left to go. That's the Jerry Marshall car that has come in.
Looks as if it might be a puncture. The jack's been readied, a spare wheel, the high-speed hammer. Jerry Marshall is understandably furious with this turn of events. It's the back left-hand tyre. The race engineers chase it as fast as they possibly can. The jack goes up. Tyre won't come off easily. Never will when you're in a hurry. On goes the replacement. Jerry Marshall has been in the pits for about 20 seconds at the moment. As another car comes into the pits. It's the number 5 car that we knew had a clutch problem, being sent on to his end pit. Jerry Marshall's going, the jack's off, and he's away. Well, we're right here in the pits with Barbara Burley. Barbara, you're actually in contact with Rod. How's it going for him?
He's got a problem at the moment. He's got a bent throttle pedal.
A bent throttle pedal. Barbara obviously has to take the times as a first priority. Does that bent throttle pedal mean that he hasn't got full throttle?
It means he won't get full throttle. It also means he may not back off completely when he lifts his foot off the throttle.
So there we have it, news that Rod is battling with all the odds, but he's still in 4th place. We're not quite sure what's wrong with number 5 at the moment. We'll try and get a word with Bob Trotter, who's out of the car. It's looking fairly serious. Bob, can you tell us what's wrong, please?
They've pulled me in to say fuel is pouring out of the tank. I don't know whether we've split the fuel tank or something.
Oh, so that's absolutely tragic news. Here at Brands Hatch, the surface is very valuable and they can't allow fuel to go on the track.
Holman there going through on the inside. Holman Blackburn trying to take it. He's in 4th gear, pulling about 110 miles an hour, still in 4th up to Druids. Changed down for 3rd. He's gone into the lead, doing 60 around Druids as they go through straight away, put on the power, change up into 4th. And they come down round Graham Hill Bend along the Cooper Straight. A quick snatch of 5th if it's at all possible before throwing it left for Surtees, right for McLaren. Pulling, if they can, about 150 plus miles an hour, then very hard on the breakthrough. Watching them here this morning, down into 3rd or 4th, depending on the gearing, and then power down again from 4th up into 5th, and a maximum speed of 160 miles an hour down the start-finish straight. We've got Holman Blackburn in the lead and Vince Woodman in 2nd. In 3rd place, it's number 12, Dave Brodie in 4th place. Number 4, Rod Burley, then number 22, Jim Mensley in 5th, and in 6th place, number 70, Hugh Chalmers. That's the top 6 as they go through up towards Druids.
So something like 43 laps to go, and that's a long time in racing. These cars, the engines will have put an awful lot of revolutions in during the course of that. Some of the drivers will perhaps be saving just a little power, but that was a very competitive start. They got off in a hurry. They all meant business, and I can see a little bit of vapour coming from the back end of the Rod Burley car, number 4, who's in shot just at the moment. Rod, in fact, was the winningest driver in saloon cars in 1987. He won the Golden Helmet Award from the British Racing and Sports Car Club for that. He won more races than anybody else during the course. He's getting a longer race there with his racing colleague Dave Brodie in the Colt. Number 4, though, the Sierra. Rod was running that with a big Cosworth GA V6 engine in for a little while. He's running with the 4-cylinder turbo this time. There is Brodie in behind him. And as during practice, a little aberration there was the fact that Rod Burley put up a faster practice time than Dave Brodie in Brodie's car, and vice versa. Brodie stepped into the Sierra and put up a very quick time indeed, quick enough to put that car onto the front row along with that all-conquering Vauxhall Carlton Chevrolet.
Well, this battle that we're looking at now has been going on for some time. It's still between number 70, Hugh Chalmers, and 112, John Edwards.
And in fact, those two have just passed Jim Mensley. Mensley, who had worked his way up there into 5th position, has now dropped very, very rapidly down the field. Something, it would seem, has gone wrong with that car.
It's the Honda Legend. There's no drive. I can't hear the engine running. Number 22, this brand new car which had qualified so successfully, unfortunately it appears to be ending its run here in the pits this afternoon. Well, we'll see if we can get an indication from the driver of what the matter is. The race engineer is listening in, seeing if there's anything that can be done. His helmet's coming off, so that looks terminal. Tragedy, Robin, I gather the oil drive belts come off your engine.
Yeah, that looks it for today. I think we'll call it a day now, but at least we've shown that from the back row of the grid it was up to 5th position in about as many laps, so I think it all bears well for the future.
Very impressive start. Good luck next time.
Mensley, he was very, very quick. He was third fastest in qualifying this morning. He put up a time of 48.2 seconds. That's an average time of 89.9 miles per hour around this circuit, and that really is very fast indeed. Now that, of course, was quicker than the lap record. The lap record at the moment is held by Blackburn and Otway in the Manta, and that's 48.8 seconds. But the fastest we saw in qualifying was with Woodman and Cleland. They managed 47.5, so I really do think that lap record for the big cars, the over 2.5 litre cars, is going to go today.
Yep, the little ones meanwhile were slugging it out there. We're back up at the front and they're in amongst the back markers now. It's car 18 that leads, Holman or Les, whichever you want to call him, Blackburn and Chiddingfold, and he's driving that Opel Manta very well indeed. Very competitive drive from him. So Blackburn leads just at the moment from number 11 Woodman in the GM Vauxhall Carlton. So General Motors every right to be well pleased here with their product well to the fore, with the Chevrolet-based power, I think, in both instances. Lots of V8 horsepower. They're in amongst the back markers, and the battle goes on further down the field for class honours.
Yes, and the car that we're looking at there in the lead with Blackburn, Holman, Blackburn leading. It first appeared last year at Snetterton and it won the very first time out. We were asking the team this morning what made the car so special that it won in its first outing, and they said, well, it was just put together well, it was well engineered, well designed, and just look at the way it's going now, because already for this first round of the Norcross Thundersaloons series here at Brands Hatch, it's already out there in the lead.
Let's see what's going on a little bit further down the field if we can, and we can say that just at the moment, moving up through the places, John Edwards is still keeping the pressure up to try and take that Class B position. We'll be looking for them in just a little, and joining the fray, that's a back marker, that's 77. That's the rotary engine Mazda RX-7 that sounded just a little bit sick in practice, of Joe Ward and Tony Dickinson, two Lincolnshire drivers down here enjoying a spot of action, but unfortunately the car not quite giving its best at the moment.
Well, I did go down to the pits and sort the car out and asked the drivers what had happened this morning, and they seemed unperturbed and said, well, we think it was just low on petrol. And in fact, at that point in time, as I asked them, they were filling it up with petrol to make sure that it didn't run out during the race. So the misfiring, etc., caused by lack of petrol or very low petrol. And in fact, the reason for that is because when you run low on fuel, you lose the fuel pressure if you start to pick up air, and of course the engine then starts misfiring. Mind you, the battle for the lead now is beginning to close up just a little bit. Not much between these two men. It's Holman Blackburn in the lead and number 11 Vince Woodman there in second place.
Well, if you expected this fairly long distance race to be a runaway affair for somebody, that is far from the case at the moment. These two are slugging it out pretty well nose to tail all the time at the moment. It would be interesting to see what happens when they will decide to stop, because when you're running in the lead like that, my goodness, the last thing you want to do is to go into the pits and change driver or anything else. So whether they'll do that together, the momentary advantage if the leader decides to go in first is that the second place man may be tempted to stay out just a little long, but they must change between 1/3 and 2/3 distance. That's somewhere between 16 and 33 laps of this 50-lap event. There's Rod Burley still charging in there with the Sierra, dropping a little way back. We see number 10, the Rover of Tony Stralson and Jerry Marshall. Stralson driving at the moment, 58, the Nissan. And a smart-looking car there, Brian Litherland and David Huddleston. 2.4 litres, that Nissan.
Well, if Brodie and Burley want to come in together, then they've really got to keep very close together. As we see there, lapping the back markers, there's number 27.
Yep, interesting car there. That one is fresh out of the box. As you can imagine, a Toyota Starlet, that's the hot rod racer's favourite tool. And in this case, two former hot rod racers driving it, Paul Sherlock and Robert Bridger. Not exactly on the pace at the moment, but just wait. That car has one of the Cosworth Sierra type 2-litre turbocharged engines. The Toyota Starlet does not weigh very much. That car is going to be quick. At the moment, they finished building it literally less than 24 hours ago. They had an electrical problem in practice. It burned out a big section of the wiring, and when you're talking about computer engine management, that gets complicated. So we'll look for that one in later races in the series. Meanwhile, back at the front, the battle between those two GM supercars goes on.
Well, they've got 32 laps left to go, which means they can come in and change drivers anytime they wish. So we'll just have to wait and see. But meanwhile, they still are locked together. I noticed that as they were overtaking Rob Bridger, that Blackburn managed to pull out a little bit of a gap over Woodman. Woodman has now closed it up, and I'm very sure that Blackburn, who we are looking at now, does not want to come in at the moment. He wants to stay out there for as long as he can and protect his position from that man there, number 11, Vince Woodman. And that Vauxhall really is beautifully prepared. In fact, all of these cars really do look fabulous. We were looking around at the cars in the paddock this morning, and number 5, the car shared by Nick Crocker and Bob Trotter, and not Crocker and Tubbs, as I have been calling them all morning. The inside the engine bay looks absolutely fabulous, doesn't it, Paul, with all those big pipes?
Some wonderful big lumps of machinery under the bonnet of these cars. I was particularly impressed too on the Jim Mensley car by the big chrome engine bearer that says Tom Laffey Engineering embossed upon it. You know, I mean, you go to those lengths, it looks extreme, but my goodness, these cars are good. And this is the appeal of the series. This series, the Thundersaloons, as Norcross, the sponsors, have no doubt suspected, is going to get big, because on a nicely prepared saloon car, you've got an awful lot of space for that vital sponsorship message, and the cars, when they look as good as these do, are going to be attractive under any eye. You can see there's a good crowd here watching at Brands Hatch today. Saloon car racing is definitely, as we said before, on the up and up. Here is Johnny Edwards now in 112, and
he's gone off. He's gone off.
Whoops. Number 70, Hugh Chalmers there, the Scottish production saloon car champion, I think he is, having problems and dropping clean out of the race. That is bad news. What a shame. The Ecuria Cost team, of course, are very well organised and very much a Scottish flavour to this series. Wonder what sort of problem he's got. It does look, unfortunately, pre-terminal as far as car number 70 is concerned. So that leaves Johnny Edwards in the lead for Class B honours. The former hot rod racer from Wolverhampton.
However, I did notice there was a bit of smoke coming out from underneath the engine of that car number 112, John Edwards, so we'll have to see if he manages to continue. We don't know what was wrong with Hugh Chalmers. I suspect it would be something such as no brakes or whatever, because they really do use them considerably. These are big cars, and they're going at fast speeds, up to 160 miles an hour on the straight, and so you can imagine really how important those brakes are.
Well, with 29 laps to go, it's still 18. Blackburn in the lead in the Opel Manta, and Woodman, number 11, right behind him in the Carlton. And neither as yet have decided to be the first to go in and change crews, but that is happening right now.
Dave, can you give us any indication of what's happened, please?
Well, the car was misfiring right from the beginning. I don't quite know why. All the temperatures were correct, the pressures are correct, so I don't know. We'll just find out later on. It's a great shame. This car was going very well the first few laps. Sorry to disappoint you, folks.
Here's Rod Burley coming in for David Brodie to take over. This is the first time that a driver has tried to do a double change, but we're not sure what luck Rod Burley's going to have with the Saran. But there it is, Dave Brodie, away. We had a very exciting first half of the race, and it looks as if your double drive is not going to work out this time. Is that right?
Yes, I gather they got a problem with the Mitsubishi. It flew at the start. I think we were very pleased about that. Both cars were fresh out of the box. We had no practice before we came here. I tried to get the jump on the V8s at the start, but unfortunately I got a pretty hefty whack up the rear, and unfortunately, because we were so much lighter, the damn tyres didn't heat up.
Well, I saw you go away in a clear lead off when the pace car pulled over, for which congratulations. Tell me, what's Dave fighting with now?
Well, it depends what position he's rejoined in. We shouldn't really have lost much ground, because I think we'd pulled away from the fourth place car. I think we did our stop in about 11 seconds, which isn't bad for a couple of old-timers.
Not bad at all, Rob. Well done, sir.
The track's very slippery out there. I was saying to my wife on the radio, and the decision which made me came in was there's a car which has crashed at Clearways, and I was half anticipating the pace car coming out, so I dived in the pits a bit quick, but some you win, some you lose.
Better luck next time.
Back in the race goes Chalmers in number 70. Now then, he was out of the car. He's had a quick look round. It looks as though he's getting back into the race. So we'll see whether he pits now or whether, well, in fact, I imagine he's got to.
Well, Rod Burley was saying that they've got a number of plans and what they were going to do about changing together with Plan B. So I wonder if they're deciding on a different plan and putting one of their other drivers in. Anyway, we're back with the leaders as they have changed a couple of seconds ago, and they're back there with Blackburn in the lead from Woodman.
A lot of lead swapping going on then, and a lot of psyching out, I imagine, between these two men. And as I say, neither of them wants to be the first to go into the pit area and change drivers at the moment. They're having too much fun, I quite frankly believe. That's probably exactly, they want to hang on to those cars as long as they possibly can. They're hanging on to first and second and swapping it around occasionally. So I think the General Motors reps present at this meeting are going to be well pleased with seeing their product right up front there. They're closed up behind that look very much like
and there went number 4 just out of your picture, the Burley Brodie car. I believe it's Dave Brodie that should be in it now, or is it? They did have a spare driver, and that was Jonathan Buncombe, who did go out in practice this morning, so it could be that he is going to go there. There is number 4 just gone out of your picture, and it looks as if they might even be lapped by the leaders.
We've still got Rod Burley shown in 3rd position at the moment, with Dave Brodie now in number 12, his own car, the turbocharged Colt, in 4th place. That car, a Group A racer plus, basically, and quite a bit of extra work doing on it. They're wet sump engines, both of these. They surprisingly, because of course you'd expect that the maximum amount of oil would want to be carried with the temperatures that these cars are going to be putting up, but both the Sierra and the Colt wet sumped, not big V8s, big bruiser engines such as they've got in these General Motors cars, but fairly sophisticated turbocharged 4 cylinders, and slowing down to pit there.
There he is. He's been signalled in. Here it is, the changeover for the Mobil 1 car. He's told to stop. He's out. The emergency procedures are all in hand. The green strip on the windscreen denotes the change of driver. Strapping himself in as fast as he can. He's ready, and he's off!
That leaves Blackburn in a clear lead, and in fact he's now overtaken on the road. This is number 4, but he has yet to pit, so we shall have to see what the order is once all these drivers have in fact changed. And it was John Cleland and Vince Woodman that took this series last year in the over 2.5 litre category. 2nd place it was Peter Stevens and Neil Facey in the Senator, and in 3rd place in the series last year, Rod Burley and Jonathan Buncombe. Yes, and we've had a couple of more driver changes. Number 27 that we saw earlier, Rob Bridger, has now pulled in. Paul Sherlock is in the driving seat, and the same with the number 52 car. Steve King has come into the pits, and it's Tim Swatkin who is now out there in that Ford BDX.
You can see there just behind the leader the blue Vauxhall Forenza, or can you? You can't. There he is going into shot, the Tony Davies Transpeed car, and of course Jerry Marshall driving that car as well. Now that's a bit of history probably as far as Jerry's concerned, because he used to race the very, very successful and very rapid Vauxhalls back in the early 70s, late 60s, and a touch of nostalgia for him, I imagine.
Well, Nick, exciting news. We gather your car's leading the race, and you're waiting for Holman to come in and hand over to you. Do you know if you've got any problems out there?
No, I think he's all right at the moment. We were a little bit worried about an oil surge, but it seems to have gone away now. As long as the brakes hold on, we stand a pretty good chance, and get this driver change okay, we should be still there.
Nick, fabulous. How long before you did plan to change over?
In about 2 laps, so you can get out of the way now.
Right, thanks, Nick.
Number 10 has now gone out. Jerry Marshall in the driving seat. That's the Rover V test, a very rapid Rover V test that we're watching this morning. We'll see if we can pick him up in a moment, but I believe it's Jerry Marshall there in the driving seat of number 10.
Yep, so Marshall out of one car and into another. Rover number 9 there, which just streaked through. That was Barry Barnes or Mike Wilson. We're not quite sure at this stage, but there's Johnny Edwards coming onto the inside in the very smart Escort. Doesn't appear to be smoking now. It's a Cosworth BDG, 2 litres, that one, so lots of valves and cams and all that sort of thing. It was revving rather well in practice. In fact, I did, whoops, it brake. That looked very much like braking effort smoke there, so hang on to the tyres. I imagine we haven't seen them go into the pit area, but I should think that by now Trevor Shaw in the driving seat. Trevor from Daventry in the Midlands, another ex-oval racer from the hot rod fraternity, used to do an awful lot of racing up at Hednesford, Northampton and so forth, in competition with John Edwards, both of them teaming up to run that Escort. The sort of shape car they'd have run in their hot rod days, but by quite a bit more sophisticated and with considerable more horsepower.
And there is definitely a little bit of smoke coming out from underneath that car. 112, John Edwards, Trevor Shaw Escort. And if you look very closely underneath as it comes towards you, you do in fact see just a little bit of smoke. I'm not sure whether it's going to be anything serious for them, but it didn't look too good as it went down through Graham Hill Bend and along the Cooper Straight, so we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed. Meanwhile, there is the Vince Woodman, John Cleland car. Cleland now in the driving seat in the Mobile 1, number 11.
And here we have the leading car coming in for Holman Blackburn to hand over to Nick Oatway. Holman's out in a trace. Nick is strapped in. The race engineers check the car as well as they can. And he's away! Well, Holman, you've come in, you've done as well as it is possible to do. You've handed over the lead to Nick. How has it been out there?
Car's fine, it's understeering a little. The brakes always get soft about now, but she's holding together well. Plenty of power still.
Good. Rod Burley told us it's very slippery out there. Is that how you found it?
Yes, it is. Yes, and that affects the understeer on our car quite badly.
Well, congratulations, sir. We expect to see you on the podium if this carries on.
Fingers crossed.
And here we have one of the big Rovers, number 23. He stopped the engine. This is Brian Chatfield. Driver strapping himself in as quickly as he can.
Then the gentleman, Stephen Ford of Johnson, lying second.
Brian, you just come in. There's no peace of the wicked. Hot and sweaty as you are, sir. How is it out there?
It's very hot right there, and it's a very short circuit, and it's hard work for a big car.
Where do you think you are at the moment?
Oh, I only think we're about 9th, but we've had the car's not a Group A car. It's not really competitive.
Well, you've done your share of winning, Brian. Nice to see you out in the Norcross Thundersaloons.
Yes, we hope to be out in a better winner for next time.
I'm sure you will be.
And as we watch these cars going through, they're going down the Cooper Straight, they turn left at Surtees, the brake, just a little bit of stab of the brakes, then right for McLaren, even harder on the brakes now as they go round Join Clearways, Clark Curve. We're looking at number 70 now, who went out earlier. He's back on there, and I noticed that with 20 laps left to go, that's number 5 that is out. They were suffering with oil on the clutch. Bob Trotter, Nick Crocker. We'll have to wait and see whether they rejoin the race. I'm just looking up at the scoreboard, which went blank for a moment, but it's back on again. Number 18, Holman Blackburn, is still claimed to be in the lead, with number 11 in second place. That'll be John Cleland now. Number 4, the car that we just saw a moment ago, with Dave Brodie in the driving seat.
That's right. We keep forgetting those two have already switched driving seats, so Dave Brodie running very strongly there in 3rd, and as I said earlier on, he did put up a faster time than the car's owner during practice, and vice versa. In fact, Rod Burley most impressed with the Colt, and Brodie with the Sierra. There's that car, the yellow Manta, back on full song now, and we presume with Dave Leslie at the wheel. And they are back in 12th place now, so a lot of work for them to do.
Number 5 has rejoined, so Nick Crocker is underway in the big Opel Monza Chevy, and it really does look a massive engine underneath the bonnet of that car. Meanwhile, we watch these Vauxhalls. I believe they're, yes, they are both Vauxhalls coming through.
One of the back runners there, in fact, a budget entry, I believe, if it's the Chevette that we were seeing earlier on. John Chambers and Gary Cole. Not quite sure if that's the car, I believe it is. And an all-round clubman's type car, not an out-and-out racer, I suspect, that one, but doing their best and not running too badly at the moment. Pete Stevens passes by, and John Litherland in the Nissan.
Well, unfortunately, problems it would appear for the rotary engine Mazda. Worried frowns looking at the car, but I'm sure they'll be out again next time.
Oh, and somebody's gone, number 5, in fact, after having rejoined Nick Crocker.
Oh dear, that definitely looks like bad news in the bank balance department for that particular team. Crocker and Trotter there. The Chevrolet engine in there appears to have come into some disarray. The engine built by Mike Huddart, I believe, who is responsible for an awful lot of those big, beefy Formula One stock car engines that you see on the ovals. And on this occasion, you'll no doubt be doing a bit of head scratching to see what's gone wrong. There could be that the oil has found its way into other places other than the clutch right now and is burning off. But whatever, bad news for them, they are out of the running. Still 18, the Blackburn and Oatway Opel Manta out front, running hard, running strong.
Opel Manta 500, a 5.7 litre engine, 16 laps to go. There's the man in second place, though, John Cleland. They won the series last year, although I believe they didn't score an outright victory, did they?
No, in fact they didn't. They won an equal amount of races with Oatway and Blackburn. They both won 4 races apiece overall. The most class wins actually went to John Devereux and Tim Swadkin in the smaller class. They won 5 times in class last year, but the overall winners, Peter Stevens and Neil Facey. Very, very consistent. The car, there is the car in question. That is Neil Facey now, I think, behind the wheel. He's almost a lap down on the leader. They started off with a big disadvantage on the grid due to the crash in practice, but those two boys know the meaning of the word competitive, and they'll be trying all the way. They are back at the moment in 10th position, and as I say, a lap down as of now.
Right, so only 15 laps to go, and this is the car that is very firmly in the lead, driven by Nick Oatway, Holman Blackburn. Going through, completing another lap as they go round through McLaren's, Joinks, Clearways, Clark Curve, and then down the start-finish straight.
Absolutely clear. And he's looking very, 3.37. That, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a battle on. Nick Oatway and John Cleland. About that, Pete Stevens and Neil Facey's car, and oh dear, the MS International car is taking real view.
There is the man in third place, Dave Brodie, quite some way behind.
Now that car put together with a lot of time and care, with Rod Burley as the man behind the project, and Rod has raced most things saloon over the years and won at most of them, and Dave Brodie, a worthy driver of the machine, has big problems come up for the Nissan there.
That's Brian Litherland and David Huddleston. I should think it's David Huddleston that's driving, and oh dear, how can they possibly see through that, those who are following?
Well, this looks like disaster for the Nissan. There's oil and smoke and steam coming from every aspect of the car. This is car number 58, driven by Brian Litherfield and David Huddleston, a Nissan 240 RS. A quick-thinking marshal runs over with a fire extinguisher just in case, but luckily no need to use it. And yet another car comes in. This looks like problems. It doesn't look like a driver stop. Number 70. Furiously gesticulating driver. Race engineers taking the bonnet off. The driver's out trying to see what the problem is. Most of these guys can do the things on their car for themselves. He's got it back in. Has he fixed it?
Now having newly leader in class.
There's the man in third place. It's still number 18 in the lead, in the hands of Nick Oatway, the Stars and Stripes Vauxhall. In second place, number 11, with John Cleland at the wheel. There went number 4, man in third place, Rod Burley, and in fifth, number 23, Colin Woodcock.
Yeah, in fact, we've tended to overlook the fourth and fifth place man. There is the leader, there is the second place man, so it's getting close again.
And he's smoking, and it's definitely smoking, so I wonder if they're going to last out. They've only got 12 laps to go, but I would be very worried if I was in the driving seat there. Oatway must know there is something wrong with that car. It definitely was smoking. I don't think it would be bodywork, and just look at the way that Cleland has closed.
Well, the thing is that round number 1 of the series, is he going to chance it and keep pushing that car in the hope of winning this race, or is he going to perhaps think, well, you know, we'll lose this one and go on to pick up the series, because he could terminate that engine very, very quickly by screaming it along, perhaps at the 150 miles an hour mark as they brake hard into paddock. It does look as though Cleland has got it back and in the big Carlton.
He's trying for the inside, and Oatway's trying for the inside. Yes, he can do it if he just holds on. He's having to force Cleland round on the outside, but of course Cleland will have the right line as they turn left for Graham Hill Bend, and Oatway spins it.
He is across the grass. I think he must have got oil on the tyres. He lost it. It got very bad coming down Graham Hill and away across the grass, fortunately without hitting anything. So
no, he started it up again. I think the engine stalled there, but he managed to start it up, and he's away. And if number 4 goes past, he will have dropped down into third. Let's just keep an eye open for it. There goes number 1.
I think Brody must already have come past in car number 4. Lost quite a bit of time there, did Nick Oatway. He is now back in front of the number 1 car with Neil Facey driving it.
That's
Facey down there in fact in 9th position.
And Facey moves up another place as they go through, or does he? Because once again Oatway keeping that outside line, and he pulls in. He's actually found a bit of extra power now, so I wonder exactly how much that smoke is stopping him. The smoke now subsided a little bit, and it's very steamed up inside the car. You can see through the screen. Either he's running out of oil, which is why the smoke has stopped, or the problem is resolving itself, because he's now definitely pulling away from Pete Stevens.
Well, these things don't generally get any better, Bill. I'm just wondering what awful things will be occurring in the mechanical department. Doesn't seem to be any lack of pace just at the moment. Anyway, Nick Oatway, the man behind the car, will no doubt know what best to do out there as he goes down the hill into paddock.
And according to the scoreboard in front of us, it's Oatway that we're looking at now is still in that second place, so these cars really very well spread out, and in fact he's picking up speed.
I've got him in completely the wrong part of the track there without our trick photography. Paddock, he was at completely the opposite end of the circuit. Nice one.
There is the leader, and in fact, whilst we watched Nick Oatway earlier and he lost some time with that spin, I think he's about the full distance of the start-finish straight ahead of Dave Brody. So unless that smoking engine gets worse, I think that Oatway will be able to hold on to that second place, and obviously they'll be very pleased with that. Going up.
So first blood in the Norcross Thundersaloon Championship for 1988, and Norcross, a nice substantial backer of this series, a very big in building materials of one sort or another, owning a number of companies in that area, and pleased to see them involved with the Thundersaloons, a category which has been attracting a lot of attention over the last couple of seasons. More and more drivers coming into it. They certainly get a lot of racing for their money, and I would imagine there's some very tired arms out there at the moment wrestling these cars around this twisty, turny Brands Hatch track, and passing by on his way to a very likely win. John Cleland passes by the turbo Toyota Starlet with Paul Sherlock driving.
There is the leader, John Cleland, in the Carlton. In second place, it's still Nick Oatway in the Opel Manta 500. In third place, number 4, Dave Brody.
We're still waiting for the second place man, in fact, to come through. He can't be too far away now. We're still looking at him, and
he's quite some way back, actually, Paul, because he's just coming over the start-finish line any moment now, which means the leader really does have a phenomenal advantage.
My goodness, yes, the battle was really raging up front, but it left the rest of them behind, and even with even the likes of Dave Brodie and Rod Burley not able to catch him. That is a surprise. That was a back marker, goes through. There's the second and third, and it's Brodie going for the second place in car number 4. The Sierra comes through to break that General Motors monopoly. The Ford comes through into second position. A nice drive there. Nobody will be more pleased than the car's owner. And talking of the car's owner, we haven't seen the Colt for some time, I suspect, and I am confirmed by the fact that he's tapping on our window here.
Got second place, haven't we?
You have, in fact, Mr. Rod Burley appears at our elbow to tell us that he's out of the race, but he's well pleased because the Sierra's up there running in second position. He's just taken that. Rod, what happened to you?
Well, it went all right. I did the first stint in the Sierra. Unfortunately, we lost boost just after the start, which was a bit hairy. We've got it back, though. Dave's on the radio, and we've told him to adjust the mixture and ignition, and he's coming back onto song. Dave started in the Mitsubishi, gave me a hard time, but unfortunately it's Holder piston, which is a great shame because both cars were out for the first time today with no testing whatsoever. But it's certainly full of excitement out there.
Certainly, and Rod Burley, they're well pleased with the effort, so he's out of the running, but Dave Brodie there going very nicely indeed. As you can see, he has turned the boost up. Lots of flame spat out from underneath of the number 4 car, and it looks like a good second place coming up for them.
Well, with only 3 laps left to go, it's a question of whether this man, Dave Brodie, can in fact catch the leader, John Cleland, number 11. I should think that actually it is actually 3 laps to go now for that particular driver. They're waiting for the scoreboard to change, but it is, I believe, 3 laps to go. And we're watching the man in second place. In third place, it should still be number 18, Nick Otway, unless he's lost some ground. Then it's number 52, which is Tim Swadkin. And in fact, Tim Swadkin, John Devereux in the Ford Escort, they were the winners of the under 2.5 litre category last year.
Yeah, Swadkin, a noted engine builder of all manner of circuit racing engines. He's got a BDX type engine in the Ford Escort. Now that would put him as leading in class. So obviously we lost the 112 car somewhere of Messrs Shaw and Edwards. But it looks as though Swadkin's going to take that class. We haven't seen much of him, and full credit to him. He's been getting out there and getting on with it.
Well, it's been showing 3 laps to go for some time, so there it is, 2 laps to go, absolutely on cue. 2 laps to go for this man, John Cleland. The car shared by Vince Woodman, and they will be very, very pleased with this. They were the fastest in qualifying. It's a 5.8 litre Chevy engine underneath the bonnet, and he's on the penultimate lap.
He's just behind the leader, too, of Class B. That was 52, Tim Swadkin, in the yellow Escort, being bypassed, or passed by that big GM Carlton. The Carlton on to way to an overall win. The yellow Escort in second, just behind him there, leading its class.
Well, I'm told that Dave Brodie is actually catching this man, the leader, John Cleland, but unfortunately with only 1 lap to go, the leader about to start his last lap. Unfortunately, there really won't be enough time.
So no prospect inside of a close finish, but we've had some very close racing in this Thundersaloons opener for 1988, and Brands Hatch, an ideal circuit at which to see them on good form. It's uphill, it's down dale, it's a good-looking track, and they will, of course, be visiting all the major circuits in Great Britain, and in fact, I think a trip or two to the continent this year.
Yeah, the second place man is about quarter of the lap behind. He's just going up into Druids at the moment, whilst this man goes down Cooper Straight in Surtees. There is Otway in second place. In third place now. Yep.
Down to the checkered flag then it comes. Car number 11, John Cleland, Vince Woodman both did a grand job of taking the win in the Vauxhall Carlton. And Chevrolet Power pushing them all the way to the line. A class win for number 52, just passing by there, Tim Swadkin, who was in 4th overall. Very creditable performance from an under 2 litre car. Not bad at all.
Well, we're looking for the man in second place, just coming over there. He is number 4, just gone, and that was Dave Brodie. They'll be really pleased with that. Dave Brodie, Rod Burley. There's the man in third place, slowing as he comes over the line, Nick Otway in the Stars and Stripes car. Then it's number 52, Stephen King, Tim Swadkin, who come through in 4th. 5th, number 27, driven by Paul Sherlock. And that car shared with Rob Bridger and in 6th place it'll be number 23, the car shared by Colin Woodcock and Brian Chatfield.
And I would think that Messrs Sherlock and Bridge are well pleased with that performance. They qualified fairly low, but they certainly brought that through, particularly Paul Sherlock making a good final effort for a brand new car to the series. Some way down the places we've got Barry Barnes in 6th position, Barry Barnes and Mike Wilson driving the Rover Vitesse, and in 8th position was car number 100. That was Messrs Davies and Marshall. But down on the finish line, some very pleased and proud gentlemen being extracted from the cars, and the awards due to come up. But certainly a cracking opener to the Thunder Saloon series for 1988.
Well, Cleland and Woodman, they were fastest in qualifying. They set a time of 47.5 seconds. We don't know at the moment whether that time was beaten during the race itself. It was certainly faster than the lap time. So I'm sure that in practice, I'm sure that they will have managed it. The conditions here today very dry, and of course the racing close as always, especially with the driver changes.
So here is that final confirmed result then of round number 1, the 1988 Thunder Saloon Championship. The win, of course, went to number 11, the General Motors Dealer Sport Vauxhall Carlton Chevrolet of John Cleland and Vince Woodman. In 2nd position, a fine drive by Rod Burley and Dave Brodie in the Sierra Cosworth number 4. In 3rd place, number 18, Holman Blackburn and Nick Oatway in the Opel Manta 500. In 4th, and a grand effort there by Tim Swadkin and Steve King in the 2.2 litre Ford Escort BDX. In 5th position was number 23. We didn't see much of them during the course of that race, keeping a very low profile, but a very good race indeed by Brian Chatfield and Colin Woodcock in the Rover Vitesse. In 6th place, and first time out for that car, a good result for Paul Sherlock and Robert Bridger in the Toyota Starlet Ford Cosworth.
Well, a good opening round there in the Norcross Thunder Saloon series, and I'm sure that Vince Woodman and John Cleland will be extremely pleased with their victory. Just to finish then, let's see how pleased Norcross were. I hand you over to Colin.
Well, with an exciting win there for the GM Dealer Sport Carlton in the Norcross Thunder Saloon Championship today. That's it from Brands Hatch today. John, what did you think of it?
Oh, I thought it was a first-rate event. It's the first major competitive motoring event that Norcross have sponsored. We did it to let more and more people know what Norcross is about. We couldn't have chosen a more powerful event than a Thunder Sport event. To me, it's been an excellent afternoon, and I think many, many more people leaving the circuit today will know more and understand more what Norcross is about.
Thank you very much, John. Well, join us again when we go to Thunder Saloon Racing with Norcross.